Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Players Zone channel. And that is right, Leicester City are finally going back to the Premier League. It's only after 1 year, but it felt like they should have had this wrapped up months ago. They were dominating the championship. And after a dodgy last few months, and then also their competition, their rivals now, Leeds, dropping a massive game 4-0 last night at QPR, it is certified now that Leicester City will be going up to the Premier League and most likely doing it, winning the championship. What a season they have had. If you isolate, I guess, the last 2 months, it has been one of the great championship runs we've seen in some time, taking it back to some of the highest point tallies ever recorded at the start of a league season. And I'll take you through it all here in this video here. So as we said, bouncing straight back to the Premier League after 1 year away, losing some big players. We're touching the players they lost in a little bit, but you lose your key players like Maddison, like Yuri Tielemans, Harvey Barnes as well. So your big name players that were really important for your squad across the last 2 or 3 seasons. Obviously, you expect this, but it's about how they've gone about dealing with it. And Enzo Maresca, the new manager of the football club, has done a great job. And if you haven't had a chance to watch Leicester play, it is something really exciting to watch. It is modernised football. It is what we've come used to now with these teams who seem to win league titles, seem to push in top 4 across all the major leagues in Europe right now. It is a possession style of football. It's overloading midfield areas and having wingers that are pacey and clinical and skillful on those wide flanks. So we'll touch some of the players in a little bit, but let's take you through how the season has sort of panned out for them. They got off to a flyer, 12 wins from their first 13 games to start the season off. And from that point, it looked like it was only one team going for the title. It would be Leicester. Southampton were there or thereabout, and Leeds were sort of coming together. But at that point in time, it looked like Leicester and someone else for the top 2 positions. This dominating start will continue. 19 wins from the first 23 games, averaging just around 2 and a bit goals a game, and conceding less than 1 goal. I think it's 0.7 across those first 23 games. So solid at the back without face. Vestergaard as well, 2 Premier League established players staying with the group and doing really, really well at the back alongside Ricardo Pereira at right back there. We'll touch on his role, a very important role, in a minute. Then the drop-off obviously came. They had a 13-point gap, I believe, early in February, and that disappeared to become only a few points, separating them, Ipswich, and also Leeds. And that's been the story we've been covering recently in the podcast. What's been happening each week? How has each team reacted? How have they gone about changing things? But, some really tough losses, draws to Hull, loss to Norwich, I believe, as well. And most recently, the most devastating loss it felt like was away to Plymouth, where they lost 1-0. They were being booed off by their own fans at full time. And I thought I started to see the legs start to go away from this Leicester side because obviously we're touching their style of football in a bit more expansive later in the video, but they're playing that possession, inverting full back, higher energy style of football where it's constant attacking football. We've seen Liverpool fall off. We've seen Bologna have a struggle with it at times. Girona's having a bit of a fall off as well because this takes so much energy and so much focus out of the players. They can produce it for 20 to 30 games, but for a 46-game season that it is in the Championship, you have to be always on from minute 1 to minute 90, and you can exploit it if you have little lapses and poor moments in games. And this whole new age of attacking, possession style of football, really heavy focus on structure, shape, and overloading different areas and counteracting teams' counter presses on you. You have to counter press yourself. It's so draining on teams. You've seen Liverpool's title race fall apart. Girona were amongst with Real Madrid and Barcelona now have separated themselves from that group as well. And that's a prime example of, yes, this style of football works really, really well, but it's very hard to sustain. And so in recent weeks and games, I thought, will it all fall apart here for Leicester? Will their focus and will their legs just fall away from below them? And will they have a drastic fall off here? Will they miss the automatic promotion spots? Because that was really looking like it might happen a few weeks ago with some tough losses. But when it came down to it, they got the big results. And in recent weeks, they've just steadied the ship. 3 wins in the last 5 games, I believe. So getting things done. And with other teams around them like Ipswich drawing a lot this season, Leeds all of a sudden deciding to lose games at home for the first time this season towards the back end of the season. It's always felt like Leicester's been the best team and they're going to go through as the best team, I believe. But lucky the other teams around them didn't stay on the money and keep winning games of football. Because at times it felt like none of these 3 teams wanted to win the title, wanted to go up to the Premier League. It sort of felt like they were all just sort of jockeying for who can lose more, who can draw more and drop more points. But Leicester did get done in the end. And a big congratulations to them. It's one thing being the favourite to come back up straight away and dominate the league, but it's another thing actually doing it, and they've gone and done it very well this season. They've managed the ups and downs. They've gone and made an FA Cup quarter-final as well. So it's been a very successful season for Maresca, and implementing this style of football that's so different to these players and what they're used to, more pragmatic, defensive, and more old-school fashion style of football under Brendan Rodgers in the past. So it's a lot of a jump. I know some new players are in there as well, some younger talents as well. Talents that we didn't really know much about, and you can get really shown up in the championship if you're not quite at it. But the likes and the names I'll list in a minute, they've really stood up to the occasion and got the job done. Obviously, leads me on to my next part here, which is about the players. As I said, they lost Maddison, Tielemans, Barnes, Castagna, and obviously that was inevitable. But once you see these players go, you realise how thin this Leicester squad is, how much quality they lose, and how much lack of quality they had in that side. But they reinforced very, very well. One player who stood out, not just brought in, but someone who's elevated in their role, is Kieran Dewsbury-Hall. Superstar. Absolute superstar this season. Sort of employed in that James Maddison type role from the past in Leicester, and very much like James Maddison right now for Spurs, playing right in behind that number 9 there, given a license, pushed high up the pitch, and allowed to create and really make things happen, pull the strings in the final third there. Not much defensive reliability put on him because of how they structure up with and without the ball, so it allows him to really focus on that output, and boy, he's had that this season. The 12 goals, the 14 assists. Not the highest goal contributions, but was sitting there for the most goal contributions in the championship for a majority of this season, and has been the number 1 guy for Leicester this season. Conte, they look for him. He has the big moments. Watching their games and the highlights, he always comes up with those big, important moments, those important goals, long-range shots, free kick magic. And when you watch the game in its full 90, you realise how often they look to him to get that attack sprung, to get breaking through the lines and really expose some of these championship defences, which can be robust, tough to beat, and sitting a low block a lot of the time throughout the season. So he's been the number 1 guy for me in terms of the impact he's made, really filling in that James Maddison role to a T, and really being important for Maresca's system, which is very heavily possession dominated, a lot of side to side. And once they go past sort of that halfway line or past that deep line midfield position, when it gets to his feet, they're going to go fast, they're going to create things, and they're going to break apart a lot of defences, and he's done that to a T this season. The next 2 players which just stood out for me is Harry Winks and Steffi Mavridis. Winks obviously coming across from Tottenham, being one of their bigger money signings and being employed this season as that holding midfielder, the deepest lying midfielder. He's most often alongside Ricardo Pereira. He tucks into midfield, he inverts as a fullback there, and they create a really nice dynamic midfield too in there, allowing that sort of number 8, and then obviously Dewsbury-Hall to push high up the pitch and keep possession in higher areas of the ground. Done a great job in terms of controlling games, has shown a real knack to have better control on the ball. I still reckon there's a little bit of improvement to be had there, but coming into the season, we saw Harry Winks as a guy that can win the ball back, but can also lose it as well. I didn't really see him as that holder, but he's adapted and grown as the season's gone on. And in this high possession style of gameplay, in Maresca's system, which is very much like Pep's, you need to be a ball player in that deep line position. That's what Harry Winks has got through his history, playing as a more number 8 or higher up the pitch. So he's really stood out for me and been an important player in terms of connecting this system up from the back 4 up to sort of attacking 5 or 4 up the top there. And then Steffi Mavridis coming across from France. Again, a lot of question marks about this guy. I've said it on the podcast. Had a lot of raps about him as a younger kid there, an English talent. Went across to France, did some solid work, but nothing remarkable in terms of standing out and making an impact. Gets the move to Leicester. He was in the championship as well. And as I said, these players who come back to England, one thing for the Premier League, the second thing, the championship, which is one of the most physical, high pace and relentless, ruthless leagues. And he's shown he's got what it takes. 12 goals, 6 assists this season. Really holds his width, stay high and wide. Very much like a Savio mould for Girona, if anyone knows about Girona. These sort of wide players that are really technical, really skillful, and play with a lot of pace. When these systems with a lot of possession, a lot of side-to-side movement of passing of the ball, playing in triangles, inverting fullbacks, overloading different areas, these wingers, likes of Savio at Girona, you look like sort of Doku at Manchester City, these players that sort of defy what the system's all about, who are just pacey, direct players, are also so important. And he's come up with massive goals throughout the season and been a consistent figure there outside on the left-hand flank. Probably their highest forward at times. Sometimes a striker drops in and supports alongside Dewsbury-Hall. So he is realistically their highest forward and has gone about it and done it really, really well this season. Obviously, then you got Jamie Vardy, 16 goals this season, despite having 17 appearances coming off the bench. He has been heckled and abused throughout the season, but he gets on with the job, and he does it with such a great attitude and character, and love him for that. Had a slower start to the season, dealt with some injuries, but in terms of when Leicester need him, he's always there. He'll always produce the big moments and produce those goals, and is a top goal scorer for a reason this season because he's got that clinical nature. It'll be so important to mentor these young guys as they come back up to the Premier League. And I think he's going to take more of a, reduced role on the pitch, but his work off the pitch and education and the, impacts he can have in his short spurts on the pitch next season in the Premier League will be very, very important for this Leicester side. And then other underrated players like Pereira, the role he has to play, inverting into midfield, being that helpful player in there to carry the ball with comfortable with his ball at his feet and can play in possession is really important. And then Fatu as well, someone who I think Premier League fans will have to get to know his name next season. If Leicester go about playing their football well and can produce a sort of 15th or higher type finish next season, I think Fatu will be the player that will make the difference. Someone that's a bit more unknown, really skillful with the ball at his feet. And again, similar to that Mavididi type style, plays as wide as possible, stretches the back line, and it's so important for Leicester's out balls or counter-attacks where they can go and expose defences, because when you're playing a lot of possession and slow the pace down, you need those guys who have the X factor who can change the game. And Fatu has been that guy for them this season. Some solid numbers from him. And I really can't wait what he does here in the Premier League now. Does he have the ability to take the next step alongside Mavididi to produce at a high level in the Premier League and be pivotal figures once again for this Leicester City side? There we go. They've automatically qualified. They will be in the top two. Don't have to worry about the playoffs anymore, and absolutely deserve this season. As I said, Enzo Maresca coming from that former Pep Guardiola type system, you can see how the blueprint's been set out there. A lot of possession, a lot of focus on inverting the fullbacks, overloading central areas, and allowing those sort of front 3-4 players to go about creating chances and scoring chances. They're a high possession team. They're a high chance creation team. But can it correlate to the Premier League? We see Burnley employ a similar style last season going into this season, and it's all sort of fallen apart. But they had a lot of young players. The thing I'm excited about Leicester, you've got some young players there, Fatu, Mavididi, just to name a few. But you've got the experience likes of Vardy, Vestergaard, and Ricardo Pereira as well. So it's going to be an interesting balance of how they go about things. Who do they sign in the summer? Do they continue signing these younger players to be mentored by the former Premier League experienced players? Or do they add that sort of Premier League experience to their squad to try and just get them over the line and keep them safe next season? Because I think Maresca's going to stay to his guns. I think he'll keep attacking like Vincent Kompany's done this season, play a lot of possession, try and play through the lines, not be afraid to take games to the big teams and not be afraid to change your style of football no matter where you travel to, because it's a bold style of football, but it can work. And when it works out well, you see what happens with Fulham 2 years ago there. They've got to the players in that similar Fulham mould where they've got those finishes, they've got those creative X-factor players that I think they can go out there and play with a bit of freedom and show what they're all about. And the Premier League fans are going to have to really adjust to seeing this new Leicester side. This is a different Leicester side than what we've been used to in the Premier League. It's not that pragmatic, robust, defensively set up, counter-attacking system like we've been used to. It's a high possession, 60% possession side with creating 20, 25 shots on goal and likely putting teams away if they're not careful. So really, really excited to see how they go next season. In terms of the other spot for automatic promotions, obviously now between Ipswich and Leeds. Leeds have the 1 point gap, but Ipswich have 2 games in hand, with Ipswich remaining games being very, very interesting. They've got games versus Hull, Coventry and Huddersfield, while Leeds' last game comes against Southampton at home. So interesting to see who will go out automatically. Looks like Ipswich have 1 foot in that second position to go up automatically. But with how these two teams' form has been recently, you just never know what's going to happen. Well, there you go, ladies and gents. That is Leicester up, back straight away at the first attempt back to the Premier League. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. How do you reckon Leicester will go next season? And if you've watched Leicester, who's been the standout player for you? I've gone Drewsby Hall and Steffi Mavididi, but has anyone else stood out for you in terms of Leicester side in their great run this season, going straight back up to the Premier League? Also, let me know your thoughts on who else can get that automatic promotion spot. Is it going to be Ipswich? Is it going to be Leeds? Let me know in the comment section down below. And guys, make sure if you enjoy this video, please smash a like on it. Subscribe to the Players Zone channel as we're on the road to 500 subscribers before the end of this football season and the start of the Euros. Make sure to press that post notification bell so you know when we upload podcast reaction videos and prediction videos. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend. Enjoy the football action, and I'll see you guys in a video very, very soon. Till next time, guys. See you later.